Movie-based video games have a reputation. A lot of them are rushed, low-effort cash grabs, made to capitalize on a film's popularity with little regard for quality. But every once in a while, one comes along that actually tries to be something more. And that's what this series is all about. Welcome to the first episode of my series about movie and license-based video games, where we take a deep dive into video games based on movies or other licenses to see if they're underrated gems, forgettable flops, or downright disasters. And what better way to start than with a game that had real potential. In 2005, Ubisoft, alongside legendary game designer Mitchell Ansel, the mind behind Beyond Good and Evil and Rayman, released Peter Jackson's Kingkong, the official game of the movie, with Jackson himself involved in the project. This game wasn't just another cash grab. It promised a cinematic, immersive experience that let players step into the world of Skull Island like never before. But did it deliver? Was Kingkong a groundbreaking adaptation that did justice to its blockbuster counterpart? Or was it just another licensed game doomed to be forgotten? In this video, we're breaking it all down. Its story, gameplay mechanics, the real-life dinosaurs that inspired the creatures in this story, and how it was received by players and critics alike. So let's dive in and see if this beast still holds up, or if it belongs in the fossil record. But before we get into all that, let's take a look at how this game came to be. From Mitchell Ansel's unique vision to Peter Jackson's direct involvement. The development of Kingkong wasn't your typical rushed movie tie-in. So what exactly went into making this ambitious adaptation? The development of Peter Jackson's Kingkong, the official game of the movie, was a unique collaboration between the film director Peter Jackson and renowned game designer Mitchell Ansel. The partnership between Mitchell Ansel and Peter Jackson aimed to create a game that not only mirrored the cinematic experience, but also stood out as a compelling title on its own right. Ubisoft Montpellier spearheaded the development, with contributions from other Ubisoft studios for various platform adaptations. The development team worked closely with the film's production crew, ensuring that the game's environments, characters, and narrative aligned seamlessly with the movie's vision. This collaboration extended to the film's cast, who reprised their roles, adding authenticity to the gaming experience. One of the game's notable design choices was the minimal use of a heads-up display. By omitting traditional on-screen indicators, the developers aimed to enhance immersion, allowing players to experience the perilous environments of Skull Island more authentically. This approach was complemented by gameplay that alternated between first-person sequences as Jack Driscoll and third-person segments as King Kong, offering varied perspectives and playstyles. The synergy between Jackson's cinematic storytelling and Ansel's innovative game design resulted in a title that was well received upon release, with critics praising its immersive environments and the seamless integration of film and gameplay elements. In the game, players take on the roles of both Jack Driscoll, a New York scriptwriter, and the legendary giant gorilla, Kong. Jack's gameplay follows a first-person shooter format, though with a more immersive, survival-focused approach. He can carry one gun and one spear at a time, but must drop his spear to use a firearm. Guns require manual readiness before firing, and can be used either from the hip or aimed down sights for better accuracy at the cost of mobility. Melee attacks with firearms can also help push back enemies when overwhelmed. Spears serve as both melee and ranged weapons, capable of stabbing or being thrown to impale enemies. They can also be set ablaze to deal extra damage. At times, Jack will find himself completely defenseless, forced to flee rather than fight. Beyond combat, the game incorporates puzzle solving and exploration. Certain pathways are blocked by thick vegetation that must be burned away, while other areas are infested with deadly spiders that will attack if Jack gets too close, requiring players to distract them by luring smaller creatures into their path. Progress may also be halted by locked mechanisms, requiring players to locate missing crank handles to advance. Throughout most chapters, Jack isn't alone. AI companions accompany him, offering assistance in combat and helping to solve environmental puzzles. Weapons can be swapped with him, and limited dialogue interactions allow for brief exchanges, further immersing the player in the survival experience. Kong levels shift to a third-person perspective, featuring a beat-em-up gameplay style with platforming elements. As the mighty ape, players can unleash powerful punches, bites, and charges, as well as grab enemies to hurl, slam, or even tear them apart. Kong can also use environmental objects, or even the bodies of fallen foes, as weapons to aid in combat. One of Kong's defining abilities is his Fury mode. By pounding his chest, he enters a berserk state, where the sky takes on a golden hue, and he becomes significantly stronger and more resistant to attacks, allowing him to overpower enemies with ease. When facing larger foes, such as the ferocious V-Rex or the towering Queen Terrapus Mordax, Kong engages in intense quick-time events, requiring rapid button pressing to perform brutal finishing moves. Many of Kong's sequences serve as the game's boss battles, allowing players to experience Skull Island's most dangerous creatures firsthand. While Jack's weapons are ineffective against these colossal threats, Kong's sheer strength makes him the only force capable of standing against them. Surviving Skull Island isn't just about outrunning its terrifying creatures, it's about fighting back. While the island is home to relentless predators, the expedition team isn't completely defenseless. From firearms to makeshift weapons, players have access to an arsenal that can mean the difference between life and death. Each weapon has its own strength and weaknesses, making strategic use essential for survival. Now, let's break down the weapons available throughout the game. Jack acquires a pistol in the early part of the game after selecting Hayes, who tosses him the weapon with a warning 9mm Luger, be careful, the trigger's sensitive. The pistol holds 8 rounds per magazine and comes with a total of 100 bullets, with an average range and a quick reload speed. It serves as a reliable starting weapon, making it a solid choice for beginners. While effective against smaller threats and weaker predators, the pistol lacks the stopping power needed for larger foes. Taking down bigger predators with it can be a slow and resource-draining process, requiring precise shots to compensate for its lower damage output. The shotgun in the game is modeled after the Winchester Model 1897. It boasts the highest firepower of any firearm, making it highly effective against large predators, except for the invincible V-Rexes. However, it has a slow reload speed, and its effectiveness diminishes with distance, making it best suited for close-range combat. The shotgun first becomes available at the end of the first level, where it is used to blast away giant crabs. Later, Engelhorn's seaplane drops another shotgun into the bat nest where Carl Denham is taken. Additionally, shotguns can be found inside the waterlogged temple that Jack and Carl navigate while searching for Ben Hayes. The Gewehr 98 serves as the game's sniper rifle, excelling at long-range combat. While it has a slow rate of fire and reload speed, its built-in scope allows for high-precision shots when aiming. It has a moderate firepower, but an unusual firing mechanic. The bolt is only cranked during reload, yet the rifle fires as if it were a semi-automatic. Additionally, reloading is inconsistent, as only one round is loaded at a time. The sniper rifle first becomes available when Jack and Ann must hold their position while Carl and Hayes lower a bridge into Skull Island territory. However, Jack loses the weapon when he is captured and restrained by the Skull Islanders. The Thompson M1928, also known as the Chicago Typewriter or Tommy gun, is a select-fire submachine gun designed and manufactured by Auto Ordnance in the United States. It is chambered for 45 ACP ammunition and is referred to simply as the machine gun in the game's manual. In the game, the Thompson is an effective firearm against small to medium-sized dinosaurs and giant insects. However, larger threats like the V-Rex and Kingkong are completely impervious to its firepower. The weapon has noticeable muzzle climb when fired on full auto, making short bursts the most effective firing method. Aiming down the sights also improves accuracy. The Thompson has an average range and reload speed, with each magazine holding 50 rounds. The first opportunity to obtain a Thompson occurs when Jack Driscoll reunites with Hayes and Denham. At this point, Hayes is seen holding the Thompson after retrieving Engelhorn's ammo supplies from his seaplane. To obtain the weapon, Jack must use a fire-tipped spear to burn away thorn bushes, freeing Hayes. Once freed, Hayes tosses Jack the Thompson, which he must immediately use to defend against Ventosauruses before it kills him. Spears are a common melee weapon in the game, serving both as an offensive tool and utility for transporting fire to burn obstacles. When set ablaze, they deal increased damage to enemies. However, spears degrade over time, eventually breaking from overuse and becoming ineffective. Though even in this state, they can still inflict minor damage and ignite fires. Beyond their use by the Skull Islanders, several of the main characters wield spears for survival. Ann Darrow, Carl Denham, and Jimmy frequently use them against Skull Island predators. Ben Hayes will only resort to spears if he runs out of ammo, while Jack can freely use spears at any time, regardless of his firearm status. There are 2 types of spears found in the game. There's the native spear, crafted from wood with a sharpened stone tip and decorative wrapping. These are powerful but limited in supply. And the bone spear, made from the rib of a deceased creature. While weaker than native spears, they have the advantage of being unlimited in number. With its ambitious development and close collaboration between Peter Jackson and Mitchell Ansel, Kingkong was shaping up to be more than just another movie tie-in. But a game like this lives and dies by its ability to immerse players in the world. And that starts with the story. The plot loosely follows the film on which it is based. However, it diverges in many ways to better fit the flow of an action game. While the core events remain intact, the game amplifies the tension, pacing, and danger to create a more immersive experience. Set in 1933, the story follows Carl Denham, a struggling filmmaker desperate to make his next big picture. In his search for something groundbreaking, he acquires a mysterious map that leads to a legendary uncharted island, Skull Island, a place whispered about in myths and rumors. Determined to film on location, he assembles a crew, bringing alongside his friend and screenwriter Jack Driscoll, matinee idol Bruce Baxter, and out-of-work vaudeville performer Ann Darrow, who becomes his leading lady. To reach this lost world, Denham charters the SS Venture, captained by the seasoned and cautious Captain Englehorn. Their journey is anything but smooth. As they approach Skull Island, the ship is battered by relentless storms and jagged rocks, forcing them to halt offshore. But Denham sees this as an opportunity. His grand adventure is about to begin, and the cameras need to roll. He organizes an expedition party, splitting the group into 3 small boats to navigate the treacherous waters. Among them are key members of the crew, including Jack, Ann, and several sailors like Hayes, Preston, Choi, Lumpy, and Jimmy. The weather worsens as they press on. The first 2 boats are quickly separated by the violent waves, and the last boat, carrying Jack, Ann, Carl, and Hayes, is struck by falling rocks. The impact is devastating. Hours pass before Jack regains consciousness, waking to Ann's voice as she informs him of their grim situation. Their boat has been destroyed. Their companion Briggs is dead, and there is no sign of the other groups. Stranded and unable to communicate with the ship, the remaining survivors have no choice but to move forward. Hayes fires a flare into the sky, hoping to signal Englehorn. But as they venture into the island's dark, foreboding caves, it becomes clear that they are not alone. Their first encounter with Skull Island's inhabitants is anything but welcoming. The group is ambushed by massive predatory crab-like creatures that lurks in the shadows of the cave. With no choice but to fight, they barely manage to fend them off before pressing deeper into the island's unknown dangers. As Carl Denham prepares to film a test scene with Anne, he asks her to let out a terrified scream. She obliges, but before the moment can settle, a deep, guttural roar echoes from the sea behind them. Moments later, massive crabs, the Kuna predators, emerge from the water and launch an attack. The crew scrambles to defend themselves, engaging in a frantic gunfight against the oversized crustaceans. Just as they manage to push back the first wave, an even larger Kuna predator rises from the depths, dwarfing the others in sheer size and ferocity. After a tense battle, they finally bring the monstrous creature down. With the immediate threat dealt with, the group pushes forward, now aware that Englehorn has received their distress signal. However, he cannot reach them just yet. He needs a safe stretch of water to land the seaplane. Pressing on, they soon spot the second boat carrying Choi, Lumpy, and Preston, struggling to make it ashore. Despite their best efforts, the rough sea pulls them away, forcing a desperate exchange of shouted instructions. Before disappearing into the fog, Hayes warns them to land as soon as they find a suitable spot, with no choice but to move forward. The remaining party ventures into a network of dark catacombs, only to be ambushed by grotesquely large centipedes. After another frantic battle, Jack and Ann find themselves separated from Carl and Hayes in the chaos. As Carl and Hayes navigate their own path, Jack and Ann push forward, only to stumble upon another horrifying creature. Scorpion-like beasts with cobra-shaped tails, far tougher than anything they've encountered before. Their firearms prove ineffective, forcing them to rely on spears to take them down quickly. After escaping the deadly creatures, they eventually reunite with Carl and Hayes, only to find themselves facing another obstacle, a massive gorge separating them. Hayes tosses Jack a rifle that Englehorn had dropped earlier, and with no other choice, they split up and continue on separate paths. As Jack and Ann press deeper into the island, their journey takes a turn for the worse. After several harrowing close calls, they are suddenly ambushed and captured by Skull Island native inhabitants. Jack is tied to a pole and forced to watch as Ann is presented as a sacrifice to appease a massive beast, the legendary ape known as Kong. Meanwhile, Carl manages to locate and free Jack, and the two set off into the jungle, determined to regroup with the others and rescue Ann from Kong's clutches. Their search leads them to Hayes, who arms Jack with a Thompson submachine gun before they continue forward. As they cautiously move through the thick jungle, distant gunfire, blood-curdling screams, and the unmistakable roars of an unknown creature break the eerie silence. Hayes assumes the source of the noise is Kong, but as they press on, the true horror reveals itself. In the distance, Preston, Lumpy, Jimmy, and Choi attempt to cross a towering bridge. Just as they begin to make their way across, Preston shouts a frantic warning. Something enormous is coming. Before anyone can react, a monstrous V-Rex crashes into the scene, instantly devouring Lumpy and shattering the bridge beneath them. Jimmy and Choi plummet into the depths below. Their fate's uncertain, while Preston barely manages to scramble to the other side before vanishing into the jungle. The V-Rex, now focused on Jack, Hayes, and Carl, begins its relentless pursuit with no other options. Jack desperately lures the beast's attention, using swarming bats and even himself as bait. The chase continues until the group reaches a dead end. Just when it seems like the monstrous predator has them cornered, its attention is suddenly drawn away by something in the distance. Anne's piercing scream. The V-Rex immediately turns away, vanishing into the jungle in pursuit of a far more enticing target. Separated from Hayes and Carl, Jack pushes forward in a desperate search for Anne. Eventually, he finds her, just in time to fend off a pack of Ventosauruses and a swarm of Pteropus mordax. Despite his efforts, the bat-like creatures manage to snatch Anne away, leaving Jack powerless as he watches her disappear into the sky. Before he can react, Kong bursts onto the scene, relentlessly pursuing the creatures through the towering gorges. The giant ape tears through swarms of the winged predators, until their queen finally places Anne on a high mess-up and prepares to confront him. Anne, seizing the opportunity, escapes through a nearby gate while Kong battles the queen. After a brutal fight, Kong emerges victorious and follows Anne's path, clearing the blocked gate to continue his search for her. However, before he can reach her, a pack of Ventosauruses finds Anne first. While one keeps a close eye on her, the rest charge at Kong, only to be swiftly defeated. Now face to face once more, Anne, still terrified, instinctively backs away. Kong must either rush up to her or carefully approach unnoticed. When he finally catches her, she screams and struggles, until slowly she begins to realize that the beast is not the monster she feared. Meanwhile, Jack is forced to continue alone, traversing a canyon filled with towering brontosauruses. As he makes his way through the treacherous terrain, he battles swarms of megapedes and scorpiopedes lurking within the caverns. After an intense struggle, he finally locates Hayes and Carl, who are fending off a relentless onslaught of megapedes. Together, they push forward to a precarious bridge that stretches over the brontosaurus herd below. As Jack eliminates the Pteropus mordax swarming overhead, Carl works to open a massive door while Hayes holds back another megapede attack. Venturing deeper into the island, Jack discovers rival packs of megapedes locked in battle, alongside a fire he will need later. Eventually, he reunites with Hayes and Carl, only to be ambushed again by Kuna predators. Once the group clears the area, Jack sets fire to the brushes blocking their path, revealing a necessary lever to operate the next gate. As Hayes and Carl work to open it, Hayes asks if Jack had any luck finding Anne. Jack solemnly admits that he could not reach her in time. Pressing onward, the group finds themselves on the path teeming with towering brontosaurus. Hayes spots an area overgrown with thick bushes and instructs Jack to retrieve fire from an earlier location. As Jack moves through the stampeding sauropods, he fends off attacking Ventosauruses, before reaching a light urn. Using a flame spear, he ignites a series of torches to light his way back. However, as the herd suddenly panics, a deep resonating roar fills the air, the call of the V-Rex. The mighty predator sends the brontosauruses fleeing in terror. Jack must now navigate the chaos, avoiding being trampled while fending off more Ventosauruses. Rejoining Hayes and Carl, Jack burns away the last barrier just as a V-Rex arrives, its hungry eyes locking onto them. With no time to spare, the three men dash through the opening, barely escaping the beast's pursuit. As they take a moment to catch their breath, the trio spots Kong's towering lair in the distance. Carl, ever the opportunist, remarks that if Kong truly rules this island, he deserves a fitting title. He then proclaims his discovery, Kingkong. Continuing into a dense valley, they are met with an attack from small Ventosauruses and Pteropus mordaxes. In the midst of the battle, a familiar voice cries out, "Jimmy." Hayes immediately recognizes him and rushes to his aid as the young crewman fights off a pack of raptors. After a fierce struggle, they defeat the predators, and Jimmy manages to escape aboard a raft. Drifting down the river, Jack, Hayes, and Carl move alongside him on foot, entering a shadowy grotto where Skull Island's natives suddenly appear, launching spears at them. Undeterred, they press forward, only to walk straight into a deadly trap. The trio finds themselves in a bog, sinking into thick mud as the natives unleash yet another horror, a swarm of Ventosauruses. Despite overwhelming odds, they manage to survive the attack, only to face another wave of native warriors on platforms above them. Jack ignites the supporting bushes, bringing the platforms crashing down. Finally, they cross a log bridge to reunite with Jimmy, but the natives launch flaming spears at their heels, forcing them into a desperate sprint. Ventosauruses close in from every direction, but the group manages to board a raft and escape, though not without losses. As the river carries them further into the island's depths, Jimmy mournfully reveals that the rest of the crew didn't make it. He's the only one left. When he asks about Anne, Hayes solemnly answers, she's with Kong. Jimmy, confused, asks, what's a Kong? Before the moment is interrupted by yet another threat. Megapedes attack, followed by another wave of natives, whom Hayes suspects are merely defending their territory. Jack sets fire to the platforms they're using, wiping out the threat, but the danger isn't over yet. More Terrapus Mordex and centipedes emerge as the group is swept in raging rapids. Their raft ride quickly turns into a chaotic escape, culminating in a desperate confrontation with a Vastatosaurus Rex. The V-Rex relentlessly pursues them from the shore, attempting to snap at Jack, who barely fends it off. A second V-Rex joins the hunt, forcing Jack to use a Terrapus Mordex corpse as a distraction. As more bats attack, Jack ignites a field of grass to ward off the second dinosaur. Still, the V-Rex remains undeterred, attempting to snatch Hayes and Carl from their raft. Just as it seems the hunt is over, the first V-Rex cuts them off, trapping them in a narrow tunnel. The beast looms over them, preparing to strike, until something massive slams into the ground above. The jungle falls silent as Kong himself descends into view, with Anne standing beside him, very much alive. With the men given a chance to escape, Kong now faces his old rival. Setting Anne down, he prepares for battle. Anne seizes the opportunity to run toward a nearby gate, seeking refuge from the unfolding chaos. Meanwhile, Kong and the V-Rex engage in a brutal fight, with the mighty ape ultimately emerging victorious. However, Anne's relief is short-lived. In her attempt to flee, she unknowingly stumbles straight into the territory of two more V-Rexes. As they close in, Kong must act fast, smashing through the gateway. He battles through the nest of Ventosauruses before finally arriving at Anne's location. With a mighty leap, he body slams one V-Rex while engaging the other in a fierce duel. One by one, Kong defeats his enemies, ensuring Anne's safety. As Anne catches her breath, the reality of her situation begins to settle in. She is in the hands of a beast, but perhaps not a monster. Meanwhile, the men find themselves at the edge of a vast marsh, forced to wade through the water as eerie animal calls echo around them. Suddenly, they encounter a Udasaur, a massive reptilian predator. Hayes swiftly kills it, prompting Carl to speculate whether it was a crocodile. Hayes, however, is unconvinced, noting that it looked like no crocodile he had ever seen. As they continue, more Udasaurs begin hunting nearby, their presence attracting Terrapus Mordex. Jack kills one of the swooping creatures, its body quickly becoming a feast for the reptilian hunters. The men must now take turns swimming while the other provides cover from attacking Udasaurs. They eventually arrive at a graveyard of sorts, the air thick with the stench of rotting meat. Whatever lies ahead promises to be more terrifying than anything they've encountered so far. As for Kong and Anne, they continue making their way through the island, but soon find themselves under attack by a pack of Ventosauruses, and quickly arms herself with a spear, while Kong grabs a dead tree and starts swinging it like a baseball bat, swatting the raptors away with brute force. After clearing the area, Kong carries Anne up a nearby column, where she's able to light her spear on fire and burn down a barricade blocking their path forward. While Anne clears the way, Kong stays behind to deal with more Ventosauruses and Terrapus Mordex. Once the barricade is destroyed, Anne pushes ahead while Kong follows close behind, still fending off more of the raptor-like creatures along the way. After reuniting, Kong carries Anne further until they reach a bog where another barricade blocks their progress. Kong puts Anne down and quickly dispatches some incoming bats before breaking through a door that leads into a fire chamber. Anne runs inside to light another spear, but is soon interrupted by another wave of Ventosauruses and Terrapus Mordex that nearly overwhelm Kong. He manages to fight them off just in time and once again lifts Anne up to a high point so she can destroy the barricade with her flaming spear. As Kong waits and continues battling Terrapus Mordex, the path eventually becomes clear, and he moves forward to meet Anne, who's now waiting at a gate. Just then, a V-Rex bursts through and destroys the gate, chasing Anne as she runs for her life. Unable to reach her directly, Kong takes an alternate path along the ledges and reaches a blocked section, where he's forced to deal with more Ventosauruses. He spots a dead tree nearby and hurls it at the V-Rex to temporarily knock it down, but just as he tries to move forward, a second V-Rex appears and confronts him directly. The two clash in a brutal fight, while Anne is trapped at the edge of a cliff by the first V-Rex. After finally defeating his opponent and clearing the way, Kong races towards Anne, who is about to be eaten by another V-Rex. At the last moment, she leaps into the air and lands safely in Kong's hands. Things seem to settle until Hayes suddenly appears, firing at Kong with a Thompson and shouting for him to release Anne, but when the gun jams, Kong seizes the opportunity and escapes. Kong temporarily puts Anne down to deal with the approaching men, who have gathered on a massive log bridge over a chasm. Without hesitation, Kong twists the log and sends them all tumbling off. Jack, now separated from the others, briefly loses consciousness. When he wakes, he hears the voice of his friends and finds Carl's camera now completely destroyed. Jack soon reconnects with the rest of the group, although a trench separates him from them. Carl, frustrated by the loss of his camera, decides to give up and return. Jack, Jimmy, and Hayes press on, determined to find Anne, especially after they hear her scream in the distance. Jack heads off alone, while Hayes and Jimmy stick together on their side of the divide. Meanwhile, Kong and Anne accidentally wander into an area dangerously close to a native village. The locals quickly become hostile, throwing spears from wooden platforms guarding a blocked gate. Kong retaliates by throwing a dead tree at one group and hurling a stone block at the other, all while dealing with more Ventosauruses. After smashing through the gate, he and Anne continue deeper into the village, where Kong battles more natives and tears down their structures. Eventually, Kong swings to another section where a cliffside barricade blocks their route. As Kong handles more Pteropus mordax and hostile villagers, Anne climbs up to a platform with an urn to light her spear. She's momentarily confronted by a bat, but manages to take it down and set fire to the barricade. Once it's destroyed, Kong climbs up, picks up Anne, and continues through the newly opened path, taking out even more natives on platforms along the way. They finally reach another gate. This one is blocked by a brown, cone-shaped pillar. Kong lifts it out of the way, but doing so unknowingly summons a V-Rex. The massive predator knocks Kong off a ledge, and Anne is once again left to run for her life. Just as things grow dire, Jack finds them. Anne makes a run for a bridge to reunite with him, but the dinosaur destroys it before she can reach the other side. Undeterred, Anne jumps down into the creek below while Jack rushes to meet her, but the dinosaur gets there first, cornering her between a group of stone pillars. Anne is now completely at the mercy of the V-Rex as it starts tearing the pillars apart. Jack, moving painfully slow through the water, manages to grab a spear and throws it at the beast, just barely distracting it long enough for Anne to escape. Jack then stumbles into a nearby bog, where a locked door prevents their exit. While he keeps the dinosaur occupied, Anne manages to reach the door and open it. With their path finally clear, both of them make a break for it, Jack scrambling up a ledge while Anne climbs a mesa. She gets stuck until Jack reaches out and pulls her up to safety. Now safe from the predator, the two head into a cave, where they finally and joyfully reunite with Hayes and Jimmy. Hayes, relieved they all made it out alive, simply declares, "It's time to go home." During the journey through the cave, Anne asks what happened to everyone else. Jimmy reveals they are the only ones left. Suddenly they hear Kong's roar. Anne believes he's looking for her, to make sure she's okay. Despite Hayes' objections, Anne insists on letting Kong know she's fine, and Jack goes with her. She introduces Kong and Jack to each other, and seeing that Jack isn't a threat, Kong leaves peacefully. The group eventually comes across a cave, where Hayes spots a door on an altar. But before they can get close, the growls of Ventosauruses echo through the cave. The team rushes to the altar and finds two crates, one containing a sniper rifle, the other a shotgun, along with several spears. Wave after wave, raptors attack. Then the growl of something bigger is heard. A juvenile V-Rex enters the fray. Along with two more raptors, a three-way fight breaks out between the predators, but eventually all of them are taken out, some by each other, and the rest by the group. With the danger past, they turn their attention to the door. One of the posts, needed to open it, is surrounded by thorny bushes, and the other is missing a lever. Anne and Jack head into a nearby cave to look for either. The cave is infested with megapedes, and deeper inside, they find an urn lit with fire on a small island surrounded by water, guarded by Kuna predators. Jack quickly lights a spear and throws it into the bushes surrounding an unlit urn beside the waterfall. Anne lights her spear and ignites another urn on the way back, barely escaping a megapede attack. After fighting off another wave of Kuna predators and lighting every urn on the way, they return and burn through the thorns. Anne and Jack then move into a cave hidden behind the waterfall, where they encounter a Ventosaurus and two more megapedes. A bit further in, they witness two raptors fighting a megapede in tall grass. Jack sets it ablaze, killing all three. After fending off more megapedes drawn by the carnage, Jack retrieves the missing lever, but has to avoid more megapedes on the way back. Reuniting with Hayes and Jimmy, Jack plugs in the lever, while Anne and Hayes open the door, allowing the group to continue. Next, they arrive in a swamp, where they find more supply crates, one with a sniper rifle and the other with a machine gun. Small Ventosauruses show up, and soon the path is blocked by more bushes. Fortunately, there are two routes to an urn with fire, though one is guarded by moon spiders. Once the fire is retrieved and the paths cleared, the group proceeds onward. They hear Englehorn's plane circling above. Hayes fires a few rounds into the air to get his attention. At a pond, Hayes, Jimmy, and Ann cross while Jack stands guard and kills an approaching Udasaur. Later, they reach a temple that Hayes believes will make a good lookout, but it's already overrun by a swarm of Terapus mordax, led by a queen. After taking down the smaller bats, the group ascends the structure to confront the queen and manages to slay her. They hear Englehorn again. Hayes theorizes he's trying to guide them, while Ann believes he may have found a landing spot beyond the swamp. They push forward. The group fights off one more bat, then a sneak attack from Udasaurs, followed by a trio of Ventusauruses. After clearing them out, they find a case with a sniper rifle, clearly dropped by Englehorn. Jack grabs the rifle and they follow a waterway to another temple. Traveling beneath it, more Udasaurs await, prompting Jimmy to comment that the island is a nightmare, a sentiment Hayes shares as they exit the temple. Eventually, they find a large lake, big enough for Englehorn's seaplane to land, and everyone celebrates until a V-Rex suddenly appears. Englehorn is forced to abort the landing, while the group flees up to a temple with the dinosaur in pursuit. The V-Rex tries to break in, but the structure holds. Now trapped, Hayes and Jimmy feel helpless, but Ann suggests summoning Kong. Hayes is adamantly against it, still not trusting Kong, but offers no alternative. Just as Ann begins climbing a mesa to light a signal fire, the V-Rex takes a detour to get to them. The group hides in a viaduct, but Ann dashes back to the mesa to alert Kong against Hayes' wishes. Jack follows to help distract the dinosaur, dealing with Terapus mordax along the way. Eventually, Ann lights the fire and calls out to Kong. He roars in response and soon arrives. Hayes, attempting to stop the reunion, fires at Kong with a Tommy gun. But he's so focused on Kong that he doesn't notice the V-Rex coming. The dinosaur charges and tramples Hayes, killing him instantly, much to Jimmy's horror, before crashing into Kong. Both titans tumble off a cliff and land in a nearby field. A brutal battle begins. Ann insists by throwing flaming spears at the V-Rex while Terapus mordax swarm the area. Drawn by the chaos, despite the odds, Kong emerges victorious. But before they can relax, a queen Terapus mordax swoops in and kidnaps Ann. Kong clears a path and gives chase, swinging from trees, scaling cliffs, and battling more bats along the way. Eventually, the queen imprisons Ann atop a mesa, and along with another queen, fights Kong. The two summon more bats to distract him, but it's not enough. Kong defeats both queen bats and rushes to Ann, who waits near a blocked gateway. Kong opens the gateway, picks up Ann, and heads down the path toward a volcano. He navigates the area with care, arriving at a spring outside his lair, only to be confronted by 3 V-Rexes, placing Ann safely near a tree by a waterfall. Kong faces his greatest challenge yet, battling all 3 while keeping Ann out of harm's way. After an intense, hard-fought battle, Kong triumphs and clears the gateway to his lair. As for the men, Jack and Jimmy manage to recover Hayes, but sadly he succumbs to his injuries. Things go from bad to worse when a pair of Ventusauruses show up. Grieving and enraged, Jimmy lashes out, helping Jack fend off the predators. Once the coast is clear, Englehorn returns, and Jack is confident he'll land the seaplane on the river once again. The duo open a door leading back the way they came, but they find their path overrun with dozens of Ventusauruses and Terapus mordax. Battling through the onslaught, they eventually reach the river, where they find a supply box containing a Tommy gun and a source of fire to clear the thorny bushes blocking their way. At last, they reach Englehorn. Jack urges Jimmy to get aboard the plane first. Jimmy hesitates, unwilling to leave without Ann, but finally relents. Jack, however, stays behind, determined to head to Kong's lair and rescue her. Now going solo, Jack receives a sniper rifle from Englehorn and sets out for Kong's lair. As he approaches the stairway into the beast's domain, he's swarmed by dozens of bats and must fight his way through. He soon enters the chamber where 2 juvenile V-Rexes have staked their claim. Using the chaos to his advantage, Jack slips past them, finding a cache of sniper ammo, and fends off bats trying to ambush him. He then makes his way to a dwelling where a fire urn is located, guarded by hostile creatures. After lighting a spear and burning away a barrier of bushes, he secures more ammo and finds a lever, defended by moon spiders. Jack distracts them with a bat and grabs the lever, then returns to open a nearby door where a shotgun awaits. Deeper into the lair, Jack finds another sniper rifle and eliminates more bats along the path. After clearing the way, he swims through a stream that leads directly to Kong's sanctuary, where he finds Kong napping and Ann close by. Jack quietly calls out to her, and the two begin planning their escape. But before they can flee, a massive cave serpent ambushes them. Ann screams, waking Kong, who leaps into battle while the humans make a break for it. The serpent is relentless. Backed by a swarm of smaller versions of itself, Kong eventually slays the first serpent, only for 2 more to show up. Despite the odds, Kong overcomes them, then goes searching for Anne. Meanwhile, Jack and Anne leap into the river, swim to a raft, and begin drifting downstream. Anne thanks Jack for returning for her and expresses hope that Kong might follow them. She still defends him, even though she acknowledges they don't belong on Skull Island. Their moment is cut short when Kong suddenly lands behind them, angry and determined. A desperate chase ensues as Jack and Anne race down the river with Kong in pursuit. They reach the cave where Jack and Carl had previously traveled through to reunite with Hayes. Nearby, a juvenile V-Rex kills a Ventosaurus and Pteropus mordax, giving Jack and Anne the distraction they need to escape. They reach a door, now overgrown with thorny bushes, and with the V-Rex approaching, Jack sneaks off to find fire. Another Ventosaurus arrives, but Jack succeeds in burning the bushes. Kong's roar is heard soon after as he climbs a cliff ahead, clearly searching for them. Jack and Anne press on, but Anne worries that Kong will attack their friends when they reunite. As they continue, Anne notes the smell of death, and once again, Kong has left behind a trail of slaughtered raptors. A surviving Ventosaurus kills a Pteropus mordax before targeting Anne, only to be killed in turn. Jack burns more bushes and fends off smaller Ventosauruses, scavengers, and a few bats before they move forward. They spot Kong returning the way he came, then reach a path of tall grass where 3 natives set it ablaze. After the flames die down, Jack and Anne make a run for it, dodging more spears before nearing the native gate. Returning to the bog where Jack first encountered Ventosauruses, they find it overrun with vegetation. Jack burns through it, and though they hear the sounds of megapedes and raptors, none appear. Eventually, they reach the wall. It seems deserted, but Anne grows uneasy. She searches for a way across the gorge and climbs up to the sacrificial bridge. Just as Jack tries to say something, the wall's urns ignite, revealing the natives were watching all along. The bridge lifts, trapping Anne, who is captured, leaving Jack helpless. Kong hears her cries and smashes through the wall, battling waves of natives before finding a blocked path. After clearing it, he eliminates more attackers and bursts through a gateway leading to the volcano, where Anne is imprisoned. He frees her and climbs a pillar to help her light a fire and burn away a barricade. The two fall into a pond near the beach. Anne warns Kong of an impending trap, but it's too late. Sailors blow up canisters of chloroform gas. Though Kong places Anne in a safe spot, the gas overtakes him, and he collapses. The Venture crew returns to collect their prize. Carl stands atop Kong's fallen hand in triumph. Anne angrily berates him, but Carl insists that Kong will live. He never meant to kill him. He's already reveling in the fame he expects when they return to New York with the beast. Kong is eventually transported aboard the Venture and taken to New York City. There, he is chained on a stage in the street. When Carl unveils him, the crowd is stunned, but Kong grows agitated and breaks free, sending everyone into a panic. He destroys spotlights and fences while military trucks and police cars move in to intercept him. Kong smashes the trucks and tosses aside any vehicle in his path, eventually flipping over a bus that blocked the road to the Empire State Building. As he approaches the skyscraper, more trucks try to trap him from both sides. Just when it looks like they'll take him down, Anne emerges from the crowd. Kong recognizes her, picks her up, and gazes up at the Empire State Building. Getting an idea, with Anne on his shoulder, Kong begins his ascent. Climbing the building's facade, Kong and Anne reach the top. Kong clings to the antenna as fighter biplanes begin their attack. Kong puts up a fierce fight, swatting and smashing any plane they get close to. But the barrage takes its toll. Wounded and exhausted, Kong shares one final moment with Anne before plummeting to the streets below. A crowd gathers around his lifeless body. A policeman tries to disperse them, remarking that the planes did their job, but Carl, silent and solemn, corrects him. It wasn't the airplanes, he says. It was beauty killed the beast.
It was beauty killed the beast.
And that wraps up the first video in the new series where I dive deep into movie and licensed video games. I really hope you enjoyed this look at Peter Jackson's King Kong, the official game of the movie. Personally, I think this game is a great example of how, when real effort and creativity are put into a movie tie-in, it can actually become something special. An engaging, memorable adventure that stands on its own. If you like what you saw, it'd mean a lot if you hit that like button, subscribe for more, and drop a comment below. Seriously. Especially if you made it all the way to the end of this video. I appreciate you more than you know. If there are any other movie or licensed games you'd like to see me break down next, let me know in the comments. I've got a lot more coming, and I can't wait to dive into more of the good, the bad, and the ugly. Thanks again for watching, I'll see you next time.